Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for This Needs to Be Said. We are on with one of our newest commentators, Miss Angel Dunworth of StreetLightHalo.com. She's come to us several times already with some very heavy topics, and I kid you not, today will be no different. Angel, what do you have for us today?
Actually, I wanted to talk about an illness that I have, actually the two larger illnesses that I have. That most people haven't really heard of, and that would be syringomyelia and hydromyelia.
All right.
So,
well, I got my pen and paper out because I have no idea what either of those are. Could you spell that for me?
Oh, good luck. I can barely pronounce it.
You said good luck. Okay, all right then. Say those two again for me, and I'll figure it out while you're teaching.
Okay. Syringomyelia and hydromyelia. Those
all right,
are
tell
both,
us what that is.
Those are both Chiari malformations, which you've also never heard of. But you have heard of spinal bifida, right? Everyone's heard of spinal bifida. It's a form of that. You can get it through injury, but mine is a birth defect. It's developmental because I was born 4 months premature. So I didn't actually develop properly. Okay, what syringomyelia means is basically in my spinal cord, there is, think of a cyst, but not in the shape of a cyst, in the shape of a string. Okay? This fills up with liquid. Over time, it elongates, it gets thicker and wider and longer, and eventually it snaps your spinal cord. That's what syringomyelia means. Most people that get it from mountain climbing accidents. Like Krista Reeves got it from falling off a horse. But you see, they'll do surgery on someone like him because the spine's already broken. But someone like me, you just got to tough it out because nerves, unlike other tissue, do not regenerate. So once it's cut and it's destroyed, that's it. It's not coming back. So you get to the point where you're getting pain in your legs, and then suddenly you just can't feel them anymore, and they don't work. So you can have it your whole life. Most children that are born with this die, but I somehow managed to live. If you get it later in life, you get it in about your 30s. I was lucky. It didn't really strike me until about between 32 and 33. Okay. The other one is called hydromyelia. What that means is between your brain and your spinal column, okay, there's water. Let's just call it water. And it goes up your spinal column, into your brain, makes a U-turn, comes back down. What hydromyelia means is the liquid in my spine only goes one way. It does not make the U-turn. So those are diseases, though, that a lot of people have that they will not recognize, that doctors will not recognize, and you will be called lazy, and you will be called all kinds of names. You're making it up in your head. You think you should see a shrink, a million kinds of things. Do not give up. If you know that your body is sick, keep trying until you get the specialist that listens. It took me approximately 8 years to find the doctor who actually decided to do an MRI and said, oh, guess what? You have syringomyelia. And I was like, I can't pronounce that. What is that, a Greek country? I didn't know what he was talking about. Because, you see, when I was little, I had leg braces. When I was born, my feet were sort of on backwards. So I spent my whole life, well, not my whole life, but a lot of my life, in leg braces and casts and whatever they had back then to correct my legs so that my feet would be forward and I would be able to walk. So anytime I complained about my legs or the pain in my back, it must have been that because that's what it was before. So it's that. So, you get older, comes with age. And you hear that a lot. So it's pretty depressing when you are finally diagnosed and you walk into a neurologist's office and the neurologist says, well, what's that mean? Well, wait a minute, what do you mean? What does that mean? So you need to know this on the first day of medical school. What do you mean? What does that mean? Or you'll have a doctor minimize it. Oh, that's just a fancy word for back pain. No, it isn't, because back pain is not going to make me catatonic eventually. But since most people don't know about it, there really isn't funding to correct it. The really good thing, though, that I can say is that with the invention of MRIs, in approximately 50 years, this disease will not exist probably, because they'll be able to catch it in babies before it develops and possibly be able to reverse it, providing there were any kind of research money for it. But at the very least, there is hope that they're going to be able to stop it, at least developmentally. The first support group I joined, I typed in the name of this thing. I'd never heard of it, and it was on a website actually that Oprah runs, and that's called Daily Strength. It was the only place that even had a group on it that knew what the name was. I typed it. There were 7 members. So the whole group was 7 members. I typed in, my name and what I had, and I typed in a question. And then I read the rest of the boards. And everybody else had typed in the exact same questions. And nobody was giving any answers. But at least that happened to me. A lot of people would see this as a curse. I don't. Everyone has something. Everyone has an obstacle. Everybody has something to get around, get over, get under, whatever it is. And it actually led to me meeting my husband. So I don't regret that. If I had not had this disease, I'd have never learned to use the Internet. I'd have never bothered with a computer. I would probably not have started typing, and I would not have written so many books. I would have just thought, well, I got a lot of stories in my head, and that would have been the end of it, and then I would have just went on with my life. So you can look at any illness or weakness or anything that's barring your way, and you can look at it in one of 2 ways. You can look at it as this is a curse, or you can look at it as eventually this is going to turn out okay, because I am strong enough to handle this, and I will figure it out. Eventually, I will figure it out. Syringomyelia got worse and worse, and even with treatment, I mean, you eventually decline. I spent 1 full summer. Luckily, I had a friend who was a phlebotomist, nurse's assistant, and a physical therapist, and she was kind enough to give up her time. It's just the kind of thing that anyone ever did for me. Every single day of summer to take me to the pool to do the exercise to strengthen my leg, because I was already on a walker within 2 years of me getting the pain. I was already using a walker, and she worked with me every single day for hours, until it was like I'm going to go home and collapse from the pain. But she kept me out of the wheelchair 3 years longer. I will never be able to repay that debt. That's one of those things that is the hand of God, that you can never even explain to other people how much that means, that someone would give up their time from work and their family and everything else just to help you out, when helping you out or not helping you out doesn't affect their life in any way. See, that's a true gift. There's nothing in it for them. So I've learned a lot of good things from this handicap. I've been able to tell other people who are going into wheelchairs, this is exactly what you can expect. I've also seen a lot of injustices for disabled people. I don't know when pregnancy became a disability, but it shouldn't be a parking space. Secondly, if I don't care about the grandfather clauses in the wall, if you have a building and you are doing business and you do not have a handicapped restroom, shame on you. Shame. Here's a really good one. When I bought my wheelchair, which if you have to go into a wheelchair, if you can get your neurologist or neurosurgeon to write the prescription for you, you don't have to pay the taxes. Just so people know that are going to need a wheelchair, because that's about $500 in taxes that you can spare yourself, because you're going to need other things. You're going to need a bigger place to live. You're going to need a wheelchair van. There's a lot of accommodations that have to be made. You're going to need a bar for the bathroom to get in and out of the tub. If you can still walk a little bit, you're going to need, a way to use the bathroom. And you may even need a nurse's aid. Okay? Don't think disability is going to save you. It's a year without work, and you may not get it. I'm just saying, you may not get it. So if you start getting sick, start preparing now for what's going to happen 8 years down the line. Don't think tomorrow's not going to come. This is maybe the only lottery you ever win. Okay, here's a really funny thing. The place where I bought the wheelchair did not have a wheelchair ramp. It did, however, have 23 very steep steps. I don't know why. You're selling wheelchairs. You should have a ramp here.
You would think.
Yeah. How are you expecting your customers to get in and out of here? Mm-hmm. But that was the only place that sold them. Oh, wow. There's only one other place in San Antonio, actually, that does. And if you're entitled to it and they give you a prescription for it and they tell you to go to a medical building, you better call first, because you're going to be running all around the city for people to tell you, well, that's not a valid prescription and no Medicaid won't cover it.
Wow.
They won't cover it. So look around before you waste your gas or cab fare. Okay, so just about 2 years ago, I went into the wheelchair. It was very hard for me. I became so depressed. Every day, well, actually it was about 2.5 years ago. Every day, I would call my medicine man, and I would cry about the fact that my hands don't work anymore. They don't grasp things. I can't hold the pen properly. I have tremors in my fingers. I can't type, dial a phone. There's a million things that just all hit you at once when you start losing your arms too. Okay? Plus, we get tremors, we get spastic gait. There are all sorts of things that go with this disease. If you want to look it up, I would suggest the American Neurological Foundation. It's the only place that has correct information and what the actual symptoms are. And you might want to look them up if you're having any kind of these symptoms, even if it's just neuropathy. It may not be diabetes. Look it up, because you're going to be the only one that's going to fight for you. Nobody knows this exists, just about. So about 2.5 years ago, I became very, very depressed. I began to call my medicine man every single day. Tell him, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. Well, my pity party, apparently that was just a one-seater. After about a month, he told me the most inspirational words I had ever heard in my life. He said, you know what, Angel? You need to pick up a paintbrush and some paint, because you're becoming a royal pain in the ass.
Mm.
And believe it or not, I went out and got the canvases and the paintbrushes and the paint, and I can now paint. My house is plastered from one end to the other with paintings. That is something I would not have learned had this not happened to me. So you see, because you have a choice when you're disabled. You can be handicapped or you can be handy-capable, but it's up to you what you decide. Because I guarantee you, after a while, the only one feeling sorry for you is you. Other people have their own things to cry over themselves over. They don't have time to cry over you. You have a choice. While it's in the time that I have been in this wheelchair, I have helped launch 3 publishing houses, one of which I own. In the time that I have been in this wheelchair, when I found out that I was just not going to receive benefits to take care of this anymore, I got really angry, and I got up, and every day, no matter how excruciating, I taught myself to walk again. I don't walk great. I don't walk often. But I can walk enough not to require someone to stay home with me and put me on the toilet. I think that today is what you make it. You can make it a horrendous day if you want to. Or when it's bad, you can just start over and make it good. I think that everyone has the option to be as well as they can. Now, not everyone that has this is going to ever be able to walk again. But my friend, Ruby, that took me into the pool every day and forced me to keep working so that I could keep walking, said something, and it was the most amazing thing I have ever heard in my life. It sticks with me every minute of every day. She said, if you can, you should, because the day you can't will be the day you wish you had. And that is so true, especially about disability. So that's basically the whole story. I would like to, at some point, come back and talk about my wonderful flights with the Social Security Administration and exactly how the system works now, or doesn't work now, if you want to say it that way, because it has totally failed me. Okay, so do you have any other questions? Because it's a pretty complex disease.
Well, I personally don't have any questions, but what we can do is follow up on the Facebook fan page if people who are listening to this show have any questions, and then we can follow up with them on that. And in the meantime, we'll have up, some statistics that'll be on the fan page that they can check out. So I thank you for being so transparent and sharing with us about what's going on with you. And I like that you said handicap or handy capable, and just, helping people, giving them the permission to know not to have a pity party, that they can do many things, and it's just their choice. And you just have to be determined that you're going to be handy capable. So I thank you. Now, before we wrap up on today, on this part, because I'm sure the other parts are going to come, so we'll call this one part one. Before we wrap up today, let people know how they can get in touch with you outside of This Needs to Be Said.
Okay, there is on www.streetlighthalo.com, there is a contact me button,